Hey everyone, you're listening to the Alex Files. I'm Alex.
And I'm also Alex.
And episode 4, we're coming in hot to you today. Episode 4 on the floor. Wow, we're just throwing up our digits right now. Wow, we're into February. We're approaching a 3-day weekend for many, and I'm excited about it. Are you?
I wish I could say I had a 3-day weekend. Social never sleeps, and in the kind of job that I do with like moderation as an aspect, we don't get holidays off, so.
I feel you.
But
I think the idea of it even.
Yeah, the idea of it's great. And sometimes I forget that there's holidays. I'm like, oh, what? How come? Oh, sure, great, awesome.
We're like, where have I been?
Just another Monday for me.
Just another manic Monday. Well, I guess, speaking of, we are going to journey into a topic that is near and maybe not so dear to our hearts, but has certainly crushed many hearts, including ours: ghosting. You've heard about it, you've experienced it, you've probably even done it, because we're all a little human, or a lot. And we just wanted to kind of talk about ghosting. Why do we ghost? Why do others ghost? Why does it hurt so much? And just kind of dive in and, explore this topic that really hurts, even when things seem like they shouldn't. And yeah, just there's so much to say. I know we both have had lots of firsthand ghosty experiences.
Yeah. Can I get a yeah in the chat? Yes. And it's something that's been around for a while, but I think as millennials, it's something that's been more prevalent in our generation because of the way we communicate and the accessibility we have to more people. It's become kind of a part of the dating culture, which I don't even know if you can call it dating anymore. When they don't actually take you out on a date and they ghost you, or they do take you out on a date and they ghost you, and things like that. So it's really relatable topic, and I think it can be embarrassing to talk about, right? To be
totally
admit that you were ghosted. It feels really embarrassing, regardless of the situation, but it's important to talk about because we're not alone, and you're not alone if this has ever happened or if you've ever done it.
Yeah, we've all, I think it's hard to fuss up in both cases, but I think, ghosting is a term that gets thrown around a lot and seems to have been more mainstream in terms of just everyday culture beyond dating, like with friends and coworkers and family, in kind of pop culture. So maybe we can just kind of rewind a bit and talk through like what even is ghosting in general.
Yeah, and some people might not be familiar with the term, or just kind of want to know clarity. So do you want to read the definition that we found, Alex?
Yes, Merriam-Webster, or dictionary.com. Ghosting is the act or practice of abruptly cutting off all contact with someone, such as a former romantic partner, whatever that looks like for you, by no longer accepting or responding to phone calls, texts, messages of any sort. In today's dating culture, being ghosted is something that 50% of men and women have both experienced, and almost an equal number have done the ghosting, both sides. So yeah, we're all guilty of it. Are they, like, I don't know, I feel like ghosting, when you brought up, and this might be getting ahead of ourselves, but when you brought up the whole dating aspect, you know, traditionally you think of ghosting as maybe like standing someone up, or, you know, they take you out on a date and maybe they ghost you thereafter. But a lot of the times it can happen when you think you're dating someone, but yeah, you're right. Like you haven't gone on a proper quote unquote date with them in
Yeah.
person.
Like a lot of our dating culture is started and based on like a virtual connection and talking to someone in like an app or on your phone and building a connection, and especially in a pandemic when it's not really safe to meet up necessarily, to rely on that. So the idea of like ghosting in that sense is like someone just, you know, you're talking to them every day or whatever, and then suddenly like they're not there, they're not responding, and it's just dead silence for hours, for days, for weeks. It's like that's a ghost. Like where it just
Where did they go?
out of nowhere. It's I think that's what makes it so difficult is it feels out of nowhere. Maybe it's a slow trickle, but it's like, you know, I don't know. It's just like it's a lack of respect. It's a lack of courage to face whatever emotion you're trying to avoid, or just a lack of respect for like following up and being courtesy of my time and my effort and whatever connection you built or
And it
whatever.
can be, I think, you know, as someone who has been on both sides of it, because haven't we all, it can be so easy to, and of course, like take that personally, especially if you have, you think you have some sort of connection with someone, and then whether you've met up for an in-person date or meetup or not, I mean, let's be real, we're still in a pandemic. But you know, and on the flip side, I think it can be really much easier to sometimes ghost someone because um, it's hard to be upfront about maybe what you need or what you don't think you want, or maybe you just don't, yeah, you don't know what you want. So rather than having maybe what seems like a really serious, intense, uncomfortable conversation, you're just gonna like Irish goodbye, sort of in a way.
Yeah, I think it really hit on something there when you said it's the easier thing to do. um you know, sometimes it is the right thing to do, but the easiest reason is not the right reason necessarily. You know, not facing the honesty of how you feel, or and I get it because it can be tough. Maybe you're going through a hard time and you have anxiety about responding, and you've been bad about responding, and it's like this new person that maybe you're not comfortable being vulnerable with yet and letting them know. And at the same time, it's not an excuse to just leave somebody hanging. That never feels good. I think it's actually one of like the worst feelings because it's indifference. It's not anger. It's not sadness. It's just I don't care kind of feeling.
And it feels like a huge loose end. There's really no closure. You know, if something dramatic happened or not, or at least there was some sort of interaction around, like, okay, like, I don't think this is working out. I think there would be more clarity. But when there's so much unknown and it's like you just, as the person who is ghosted, I think you imagine like all the possibilities. Like, did I do something? Did something happen to them? Like, did I imagine this? Did I
Yeah.
make this up?
Weren't they just into me and like texting me good morning, beautiful, like 3 days ago?
Yeah. It makes you feel like maybe you lost it a bit, or like, are you overreacting to them ghosting you? Should you be cooler about it? I
Did you do
mean,
something wrong? Are you not lovable? I mean, it's just all a swirl of these sad and difficult emotions that are hard to process when you literally have nothing to go on. You try to check the facts, and there are none because you don't know why. And I think it's really quick to blame ourselves and say, "Oh, I'm not lovable. I came on too strong. I'm this. I'm that." When really, in all honesty, it's a reflection of the person who's doing the ghosting and their inability to be upfront, have a conversation, or even just respect other human beings that they're interacting with.
100%. And I guess something that you found that I thought was something I hadn't really heard before about ghosting was kind of the different like levels of it. And curious if you could maybe, let our listeners know what you found there. Because I think it's kind of like the spectrum, right?
Yeah. So when we were thinking about this topic for an episode, I not only have been affected, but I'm really curious as to why the hell people do this, why it hurts so much, what to do about it. So it was really interesting looking into this. I found a concept about kind of 3 levels of ghosting, because it's usually associated with maybe a romantic partner, but it's could happen with a friend, a family member, and kind of at different levels. And the first level is kind of what you consider lightweight. And the example they gave was somebody orders a drink in a restaurant and then just leaves without waiting for it or getting it. And it's, like, why would you ask for that? It's definitely a choice in behavior. And yeah, it's anonymous and maybe not that harmful, but it's a choice, right? Second level, like midweight, maybe it's feeling less personal, but someone that's in a fight with someone else. You're friends with them, your brother or sister, and you talk to them a lot, and that person reaches out and you choose not to respond immediately because you're, in a relationship with the person they're fighting with or something. And it's like this weird tension ghost of just like, I don't want to be involved and have a potential conversation that's going to make me feel uncomfortable. And then the third one is the full on, you have a friendship, you have this connection with somebody, a romantic relationship, whether it lasted 1 or 2 dates or 3 years, and that person just cuts off all communication and abandons you for no reason. So kind of 3 levels of intensity, different ways, different dynamics. I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm like, wow, like micro and macro ghosting, if you will.
I think it helps put it into perspective for, hopefully, ghosting in our own lives will stop, but the world is what it is. So I think having these kind of levels almost helps put a name to it, and kind of, it's more complicated than just this one thing. And also the fact that, like, while maybe it started in the context of like romantic relationships and dating, I think it really does spill into other relationships in, your life, like friendships, things with coworkers, like just correspondences there, or with family. Like that can be so real.
Yeah. And it's like, again, even if it's like at work or something different dynamic than romance, it's so confusing.
It's so confusing.
It's like, what? And yeah, so I want to ask you, like, have you ever been ghosted by, like, I think we can both say yes to the romance part, but like, have you ever been ghosted by a friend or a family member?
Oh, that's a great question. Ghosted by a friend. I think on the
or
friendship,
ghosted a friend.
Or ghosted a friend. I think on the friendship level, I've certainly been guilty of ghosting someone when maybe, and this seems really small, but I think it can feel like an easy kind of cop out. Like when you make a plan to talk to someone on the phone or FaceTime or whatever, maybe it's not a real life meetup. And this is definitely before the pandemic, like a long distance friend. But then at the last minute, it's like, oh, I'm just like so tired from work or the day or whatever. So it's not really, it would be like, I'm just maybe not going to like call them at all, rather than even sending like a thing about like rescheduling. And I think, if I didn't hear back from them either, then it was like, oh, like it's fine.
Door goes both ways.
Yeah, door goes both ways. But I think that, and I think now that we're in a pandemic and we're having so many virtual kind of meetups and FaceTimes and phone calls, I just feel like it's totally fine if folks like need to like change plans or whatever, like our lives happen. But I think that I'm more intentional and just conscientious of plans that I make to talk with someone, because it's harder to have that human connection now. And I think I took it for granted before with being able to maybe ghost someone in the same way as like now. Like if I were planning to meet up with someone now, maybe in person during the pandemic, a friend, I would really, really urge folks to, and for myself, like avoid ghosting them in person, or because I mean it's such a production to meet up with someone now.
Yeah, don't do that. Come on, dude. Don't do that.
But I think it's like the feeling that like, before the pandemic, as like 20, 30 somethings, it's like, oh, like we made plans and like your best friends will be down to cancel because they just want to like veg out at home. And it's like, well, now that's like all we're doing. Which is, I don't know if it's ironic, but it's kind of like, man, I don't know. I miss the feeling of being able to ghost without any regard.
Right? So that option isn't quite there. But I think what you're talking about too is also like a safe boundary of like how you want to spend your energy, and like there is that choice of like, am I going to ask them to reschedule or let them know and say, hey, I'm not up to it today, or am I just not going to say anything? And depending on you and your relationship with the person. And I know that anxiety can hold me back, but I always try to let people know, like, all right, even if I'm nervous to send a text, like I'm going to send them and let them know, like, I need time for myself right now or something. And it's not personal, but
totally. Because I think sometimes, like, almost everyone will understand, but I think sometimes the response on the other person's end can seem, even especially if it's through text, like so dramatic, and like maybe they're just like so disappointed and like, oh my God, no, you have to come out, come on, like,
oh, I hate that.
Would want you to, and it's like, dude, like I'm just a person.
It makes me want to not come out even more because you don't really care about me. You just want me to be there because you want to be there. But like a real friend could say, oh man, she's tired, or she's this or she's that, and we'll catch her next time, and like have a good night at home. And most likely they'll be at home too, like texting that from their couch, like conserving energy, man.
I mean, I've definitely been guilty around family, like, and this is super particular to like the holidays pre-pandemic when I'm with my siblings and my cousins, of like after Christmas dinner or New Year's Eve, I don't know, dinner, whatever people are doing, Thanksgiving, my sister and I, she's like, let's go out to like this dive bar that we always go to on like Thanksgiving night. And then it's like grab everyone, and then when like our brother doesn't want to come, or like a cousin that we're super close with doesn't want to come, we're just like, boo, like, which doesn't help. Like that's not helpful. And I think that that's different than ghosting, but I think just allowing everyone some grace. And I also think that like having a lot of wine at those holiday dinners doesn't help the peer pressure sort of police, but
because I'm like on the opposite end of the spectrum with you. Like I'm the one who just wants to go home. I'm like, I cannot, first of all, if I go to a bar, that's a miracle. I'm not going to a second location. I am already tired. I want to use my energy to like paint a picture and be alone. Or I love people and I love stuff, but also like I have a very small window. So I get it. And it does feel bad when people are saying boo and want you to do this and that. But like,
yeah. And that's honestly, I wouldn't say out of character for me, but
I think it is.
I think it is, because normally, but I think it's the fact that like, family lives all over the place. Most of them are in San Diego, and it's like that instance where we're all together for a couple nights. And so it's like, let's make the most of it.
Yeah.
Because normally, they totally get when I'm like, I think I want to go to bed at like 8 p.m. They're like, go for it. And it's totally okay if any one of us sort of Irish goodbyes, a family gathering, like if you need to go like to bed early, or just like take 30 minutes to yourself during a party, do it. Like no one cares.
Yeah, I've done an Irish goodbye to go take a nap with my boyfriend's mom and her friends who are drinking during the day, and I can't keep going to a certain point. So then I kind of just dipped out and took a nap for 2 hours, and then I was back up. She found me. She's like, oh my God, I have so much respect for your rebound. like took a nap, you're back, like what's up? And it's like, you know, it can be a move.
I think, you know, naps are great. French exit, Irish goodbye, however you need to play it, like.
It's Irish goodbye. As 75% Irish, I have to say, like, I think it's an Irish goodbye. Feels like
I think so too. I don't think that my 23andMe, I don't think there's any French.
Non. Mais je parle français. J'ai l'étudié français.
All I know is je n'ai pas mangé du poisson.
You don't eat fish?
Yeah, but it's fun to say it in this like angry, like
je ne mange pas.
Je n'ai pas mangé du poisson.
De poisson.
De poisson. It's like, okay. I have a question for you. Have you, because I do want to talk about the romantic ghosting, because I think that's all too familiar for all of us, but curious if you've had situations where you have either been the ghostee, the one ghosted, or ghosted someone else, in situations with friends or family, or like at work, anything like that.
I have my awkward smile on, because it's like, you know, it's being vulnerable. It's a little uncomfortable to talk about, but I am, yeah, I've had that experience. I feel like the first one that comes to mind is friends and family. Just people kind of slowly stop making the effort, and you don't really know why. And it's like, I thought we were good friends. I thought we were close. And it's just out of nowhere. You realize that energy is not being reciprocated, or they don't reach out to you or talk to you as much. So I've had to be really careful where I'm just continuing to give this love. And I realize, like, wait a second, they don't really care. They don't really reach out. They don't make the effort. Why are you like doing this? And, you know, that's been tough, and it feels sad, because I always take it as a personal thing of like, why, you know, did I do something wrong in the friendship or the, you know, relationship? I usually, in my family, I don't know, that's like a different section of just like falling under the umbrella of my mom, and kind of relationships that she's burned over the years, and how that kind of trickled down to me as a kid, but also just being ghosted by friends that I was really, really close to, or even trying to get close to. As far as being the ghostee, I try really hard not to do that. Sometimes it takes me a while, because even if I don't really want to hang out ever, I can seriously really like and respect and love and care about you as a person, and at the same time just like really just
totally
want to. So it's like I try not to ghost, and at the same time, like, you know, not rush in and kind of set that boundary, and not like respond right away and sign myself up for something. There are people that I feel like I've made a specific choice not to talk to anymore. If they reach out, you know, I'll try to respond and just kind of keep it null. But then the romance, that's a whole other section that we can get into later.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't thought about friendships that that technically, yeah, were a ghosting situation, where like you thought you were good friends, and then over time it's like you realize, oh, I was the one, like as soon as you yourself stop reaching out and putting in the work and taking the initiative, like you're like, oh, I guess maybe this wasn't so balanced.
Where are you?
Yeah, and who knows, like maybe they're going through something, hard to say, but it can be, I think, I don't know, it still sucks. Like friendships are just as important.
Yeah.
If not more sometimes.
That feeling of like, what did I do? And, you know, I loved this friend, or still, you know, it's like.
And you replay those things in your head, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Like, when did it switch? When did it change? Was it recent? Was it a long time ago? What things led up to that? And I just kind of hamster wheel through those thoughts, because there's no resolution or reason why, and we often don't get that closure.
And, you know, you go through, and then, you know, as both of us with anxiety, thinking like, oh my God, did I do something wrong? Are they still following me on Instagram? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, you try to look for those clues. And I think that's a big part of trying to create some closure from a situation that has been with ghosting, is like you're looking for signs or clues as to like what went wrong, and like justification for, yeah, being kind of thrown to the side in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, in a huge way. And like I have some interesting facts about that because it feels really bad. And it's like, am I the only one so focused on this feeling and wondering why? And I'm not, and you're not. And it's like literally wired into our brain chemistry as a form of survival, because we need to connect to people to procreate and keep this going. And it's like, as soon as we realize like the social cues are off and people aren't accepting us and we've been rejected, subconsciously the reptilian brain just kicks in and is like, something's wrong, you need to figure this out. And the brain chemistry is just kind of churning away on that, which I thought was really interesting because it feels really difficult to let go of and stop dwelling on that.
Yeah, it's this feeling of total rejection
and disposed. And one of the worst times it happened to me, I felt literally not even human anymore, the way that I felt so like discarded from like a narcissist. It was just like, it's like, you don't respect my time if you're not going to respond to me ever, like, and then you're just going to roll back in like 3 weeks and be like, what's up, how's it? It's like not even acknowledge it too. That there's the roll around, which gets me, because there's a ghost and then they pop back in and you're like, yo, God, are you serious?
And I think sometimes when they pop back in, they act like nothing happened. And so you're made to feel again like you made the ghosting up, like, and then you're questioning your own sort of sanity, and like that can be just as confusing, if not more.
Yeah, it's like, wait, especially I think in like a romance way, it's like, wait, you still like me? You still think about me? Like, wait, what? Wait, I still what? And then you fall into that trap too, and it's just like this manipulative cycle of like using somebody, and it sucks. And so many people do it, and I don't know, maybe like we might have done it too. Like, I don't. It's just
yeah. Well, and maybe that's the right transition to kind of thinking about situations. I mean, I know there are many for both of us where we've been ghosted. But do you have any like particular, this sounds bad to say, but like standouts of like moments where you were ghosted, and kind of what the circumstances were, maybe on a high level, and like how that made you feel, and if maybe it informed like your dating going forward, or just how you not even dating, but how you approach any sort of relationship?
Oh, you're coming in hot with the questions, coming in hot and heavy.
You're doing my investigative journalism. I just watched the Britney Spears New York Times documentary, so I have lots of questions.
Wow, cutting right down to the brass tacks. I like, as soon as you said that, like I just started thinking about like these different standout situations and people and shittiness that ensued. And most of them in my 20s, guys that act like they really like you, that play instruments or make art and shit, and are, it's just, I don't know. It's tough to like even like bring up like the most devastating one, because it was actually traumatic. It was like an abusive situation of like a narcissist, and it was just like really, 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 really bad to be cut off after 4 years, and just at different points, and like it just makes you feel so disposed and inhuman and not worthy. And those are things that can really affect your self-esteem. And that's something I definitely struggled with before separating myself from the attachment of that kind of
That's a lot.
Hurtful behavior. Yeah, I didn't really want to go there necessarily. I was trying to think of like the lighthearted.
No. I mean, I don't think that, like, it's part of life, and that's what we're here to talk about. And I think that there are different layers to that, like, being in an abusive relationship as well as the like ghosting element. Like, those are lots of layers.
Yeah, it's like actually like a stage of like a narcissistic relationship with an empath is like the discard stage, and that's like the really painful one. And it's just such betrayal. And then even if it's not even that deep of a relationship, it's like I was dating some guy, and like just building that consistency with someone of nice things, like saying good morning or asking about their day, and like getting in a expectation of consistency with somebody, and then for it to drop off out of nowhere when you were really hoping this was going to continue to click into something. And it's just I've been there more times than I can keep like explain, and it's just in different ways, different people, and then a lot of them come back like years later, years, months, still here, bumming around, got a new girlfriend, whatever. It's crazy. Like it's nuts, and I don't understand that. And it's like trying to recover from ghosting someone. It's like, I'll admit it, I've let people back into my life, and now I'm learning to not, and making a decision to, in my sense, not ghost, but just to decide to no longer engage with somebody who's hurtful, with someone who's hysteric and mad or something. My dad always taught me, like, if someone's being abusive or unhelpful or just nuts, it's like the only thing you can do is not engage. Stop engaging. Stop giving them fuel. Just don't engage. And it's tough. It's one of the toughest things I've done, but deciding to not respond to certain people because it's, the boundary and safer option for me. It's, a conscious ghost of like, okay, this is okay. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think? What are your experiences, recent and old, with this whole rodeo?
Yeah. I mean, wow, what a rodeo. I think that let's see, I actually, when you said recent, and this is not really even recent at all, but when I moved back up to the Bay Area in 2016, I was dating someone for a couple months, like nothing serious, but someone I met, this guy on, I don't know, Tinder or something, and seemed really cool, was like a couple years older, and he was from the Bay Area. So I had just moved back, having gone, or like lived here in college, gone to college up here, and he was like a great person to kind of date because he could show me like all these cool places that I didn't really know about, or just like it'd been, like 5 years. But then I don't know, one day it just like I stopped kind of hearing from him, and I was like, oh, I had just gone to Outside Lands, the music festival. He was not there, but I remember texting him and I was like, I don't think he's gonna respond. Like it was just a feeling in my gut, like I think I'm being ghosted. And I remember, and I don't know specifically what I said, but I called him out on it over text maybe the next day. And I was just like, I feel like something changed. Like, I'm not really sure. I don't know if I'm imagining it, but like, and he was just like over text, like, I'm so sorry. Like, you deserve better. Like, I shouldn't have, I don't know, whatever his thing was. And then
I've heard it.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I was really annoyed. I was super annoyed. But then like 6 months later, he popped back into my life.
6 months later.
Yeah. And wanted to take me out for drinks. And I was like, oh God. And then he was like, well, what if we grab dinner and at this like super fancy historic like restaurant in Berkeley that's like iconic. And I was just like, okay. So I was just like, this is what I deserve, and I don't owe him anything. And he was the one that ghosted me. So we went out on like one date, and then I just got this really bougie meal. Like, I'm here saying that on the record.
That's amazing.
justice for those who were ghosted. So that was, it didn't feel great. I remember thinking at the time when it happened, like I thought I was done being ghosted, but there were so many situations in my 20s when I moved back home to San Diego where I dated people, guys in bands specifically and only, who I don't know, like nothing was ever defined about what we were doing. Like it was never really serious. And sometimes like, yeah, they may have like had girlfriends that they didn't tell me about, or I didn't ask, or whatever it was. And it just felt really bad. And there was one in particular who, and I don't think this is really counts as ghosting, but it certainly came up out of nowhere and felt like a spooks, like I'm gonna spook you situation. Someone I dated for a couple months who like texted me at like 3 a.m. and he's like, hey, it really bums me out to say this, but I don't think I can hang out with you anymore. And my job at the bar has just gotten so busy and it's only going to get busier. So, and I was just like, like, okay, like I work 40 hours a week.
It's lame.
Anyways, there was, yeah. So I was so mad and I didn't go to that venue for a very long time because I was so mad and sad. I was like, what did I do? And I think I understand that if you work in like hospitality, your work hours are much different, but it's like a 3 a.m. text on like a Sunday night or whatever. It was not a fun thing to receive and like kick off the week with. And I don't know, it made me feel very bad.
Yeah.
It feels like, yeah, it feels like being kind of like you're just like a piece of a person. Like you don't feel like a person. You're just like thrown to the side. Like I'm just an object. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned something too that I'm gonna just like tip my hat to. Like, yep, been there. Like, they're there for you and all this stuff, and then maybe there's like a girlfriend you didn't know about. You're like,
oh yeah.
And then suddenly it's like, wait, what? It's just, and now everyone looks at you, and you're the person who wrecked this, and yeah, it's like, wait, what? Like being lied to and manipulated and ghosted and confused. It's toxic and abusive, and so many people do it. So many people do it because they're selfish.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why do people do this?
I don't know. I even asked, this was my first person who I sort of dated in a band, but I asked him up front, or I said, like, I thought you had a girlfriend. And he's like, no, it's complicated, but I don't. It's like, dude, you do. Like, you definitely do.
Yeah. Yeah. If the words "it's complicated" come out, you do.
And I'm like,
it's like, it's funny because I have like the unique pleasure of knowing like these people that you're referencing, and I just tip the hat and just learning lessons, and it's just like, you know what, the 20s, man.
I know.
We did our best. We had some fun, and now we're learning from it.
We're learning from it. Went to a lot of shows for music of guys who's like, looking back, like really a fan. Just saying. I don't need your like Mumford and Sons cover band.
I'm just gonna shorten that to I don't need your cover band.
I don't need your cover. Well, yeah, I mean, they wish.
As a musician, I can say right now, I don't need it.
I don't need that energy. So yeah, here's the deal. It sucks. It sucks to get ghosted. And especially, it doesn't matter whether it's a long-term relationship or something where nothing is really defined and you're not even really sure what you're doing with that person, but it feels like you have some sort of connection because you're spending time with them or communicating with them. But at the end of the day, like, it's not a good feeling. What do you have advice, I guess, from situations you've been in, being the ghostee for people who have been ghosted? Like, because I think it's kind of unfortunately inevitable, but I think that it's easier said than done, but I think it's about like how we react.
Yeah. So I think I have two key takeaways from my experiences that I would want to share. And the first one is that it is 100% not about you. It's about this person's inability to confront whatever situation or emotion that they're avoiding. Most likely they have that avoidant attachment style, which is when intimacy and closeness to people make them feel scared and uncomfortable, so they don't participate in those things, and that can lead into betrayal and hurting other people. So it's not a reflection of you, and it doesn't mean you're not worthy of love. And the second thing is to try to work on letting them go. Like I said earlier, I've had a lot of experiences with like being ghosted multiple times by the same person, and like letting this person back into my life, whether it's a friend or a romantic person. And once someone shows you the true colors, and there's not really an excuse like the third time that, oh, I was sleeping, or just for a few days was going through something, it's like, you need to hold people accountable. And if they're not going to be accountable for being disrespectful and shitty to you, then you need to let them go. It's the best you can do for yourself, so that you can leave room for people who are going to be responsive and be there and respect your time and your emotions.
Those are great. Yeah. I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, it does say so much about that person who did the ghosting. And I guess from my own experience, just also, it can be so easy to kind of in the moment, if they do, I mean, if they really just Irish goodbye subtly, and you don't hear a peep from them, but if they throw a like, hey, it really bums me out sort of text your way, that's sort of a ghost. I think just take a moment or a day to kind of sit on that and think about like how you want to respond, if at all. And don't feel the pressure to respond immediately. Because I think, again, it's like getting so caught up in the moment. And then, yeah, I mean, it's so much, it's okay to feel hurt and to kind of work through that pain, but focus on things that make you feel good, and kind of taking care of yourself and surrounding yourself with people who like love you and love who you are and make you shine, and will be there for you in these moments where your self-esteem can be like super, super low, even if on paper, like whatever this relationship was doesn't seem like a lot, it's still valid.
Yeah. Everything's valid if you feel it.
Totally.
Ghosting. It makes me sad to think about. It makes me sad to think about and remember, and just I'm just grateful that I have like a higher standard for myself of allowing that kind of, like, not allowing that kind of behavior in my life and holding people to a higher standard. And something that you mentioned like kind of a while back was talking about sending a message to someone that you were like, hey, I feel like something's different, you're kind of distant, what's going on? I think that can be a really strong move and really effective, because that's like you're doing the opposite of ghosting. You're confronting it. You care about this person. You want to know what's going on. You want some sort of explanation. I think that's a really reasonable and logical thing to do when that relationship is still worth it and bringing joy to your life. Not necessarily if it's toxic, etc. But I really appreciate that. And I let people know that now in my life. I say, look, that's one of my boundaries. Like, hey, man, here's why this hurts. And, I'd really appreciate if you didn't do it. And after 3 times, it's like, all right, obviously this person doesn't want to change. And I got to make a choice.
And I think, I didn't even really think about me texting that guy who I thought was maybe ghosting me or something had changed. But I think at least even acknowledging it over text, and sort of saying it out loud via text is really powerful. And, and it can be an opportunity to like have a conversation, and maybe there is stuff you need to talk about and you will stay together or whatever. Who knows how it unfolds, but at least kind of throwing it out there, because I think it's like being the bigger person, and I think giving light and sort of air to like what you're feeling, so it's not just running around in your brain, you're running the software about it. I think that is also a relief to be like, okay, I said it. And then, you know, and in this case with this guy, like, yeah, he was like, he copped up to, I don't know. Anyways, he was, it's not a police officer. No, he acknowledged it. So I think that was one thing I did do differently in learning from all the instances before of being ghosted.
Yeah, I think it can be scary to send that and
so scary.
Put that out there and say, you know, this is how I feel, and like just in case, you know, worrying about getting a reaction that's not the love and affection and attention that you want. And it's like when you're getting ghosted and you're, you know, grappling for this sense of reality to regulate your emotions and it's not there, you don't have any explanation, you know, our social cues are gone. It's like, and so it's like, why do people do that? You put people in such a tough situation. So if you can avoid it, man, let's have those conversations. Let's let them know, you know what? It wasn't a match for me, man. I'm sorry. I wish you the best. People love that so much more.
They do, even if it hurts. And I think thinking about it now too, like reaching out to someone who you're maybe dating, or a friend, where you feel like you're getting ghosted and just acknowledging that, and maybe it's time to have a conversation or just throwing it out there. Like, I think that gives you, as the person potentially being ghosted, like this sense of like agency and power in a situation where like the person ghosting might traditionally like hold all the power to be like, I'm just going to do it. And so you're able to kind of get back some of that power and taking a little bit of control of like how you want things to play out, even if it's not going to be like, you know, hearts and flowers.
Yeah. You don't have to like let it lie and, you know, wither in its silence. You can speak up and say, hey, wait a minute, this is different and bizarre and not okay and hurtful. What's going on? And if you have an established relationship with somebody, I mean, we all have the right to have common decency and communication and courtesy. And it's so sad that a lot of people are just so selfish that they choose not to give that to people, even to people that they've been intimate with or spent time with for a while. It's, I don't know. I'm not wired like that. It's very hard to put up those walls 100%. So it's, I don't know how people do it. I get it. I get being uncomfortable. I do. And I do I lag on text messages. I get anxiety. I overthink things. I do, but eventually I try to stand up and say.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, they're certainly not fun or easy texts to send, but I think that they're in the long run a better choice than just letting these ghosts spook us. And you know, Halloween, as much as I love it, it is October 31st. It is not every single day.
Yeah. Kind of wish it could be, but you know.
Well, that's why we have ghosting then.
Oh. Yeah, so let's be Ghostbusters and take control and like decide what we're going to do next. Do we want to call them out? Is this relationship worth it? Are we going to have that conversation? Are we going to respond when they reach out to us a week later, 6 months later? Like we get to make these choices and decide, yes, that action that was hurtful was very one-sided and we had no control over it. So let's look at the things that we can control. And it's really hard. And it's hard though. It's like you wish this person loved you and you want to talk to them and they're back, but it's like, let's learn from the behavior they've showed us of who they are. You know, we have to listen to behavior, not excuses and words.
Ghostbusters is a great idea. Like that's a good business idea in terms of, or like instead of like a dating service, like you will be hired by people to.
That exists on MTV. I saw a show, ghosting show, and they like pair people up who've been ghosted and make them confront each other. It's like it's incredible. There's one season. God. There's like 1 or 2 seasons.
And MTV is on it.
The guy who hosts it dated somebody from Riverdale. It's just there's just so many things. But
I know who you're talking about. Dated the
Madeline,
ginger.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
wow. Yeah. Well,
don't avoid everything forever. Let's just
don't avoid everything forever. It's okay to feel sad or to feel like maybe it's easier to ghost someone. But at the end of the day, be the bigger person, do the right thing. Especially in these times where it's really, really hard to stay connected to just the people in your life already. So we are sending you love and light and anti-ghost vibes.
Oh anti that.
Anti the.
I'm a ghost.
You're so spooky, but in a very, very cute way.
I can't help it, man. There's so many reasons why.
I can't help being a spooky ghost.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Well, that's for a different episode. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of the Alex Files. Tune in next time where who knows what'll happen. You have to tune in.
Yeah. Got to go through our files, see what's up.
We have to go through the cabinets.
Adjust our monocles. And, yeah. Thanks for listening.